Why do you care about privacy on social media? A look at yourself as the product and how to stop it. To begin with, a little bit about who I am. My name is Hitch. I am a DevOps engineer right now over at Analog Devices, and after DEFCON, I will officially be working for Reach now. My main goals throughout my career have been becoming as big of a generalist as possible. So that's everything from doing help desk and sysadmin work to software engineering and InfoSec work. I've worked as an InfoSec Analyst as well as like a DevOps engineer, and it goes on and on and on. But a lot of what I do is creating tooling for users and educating users on how to be safer when they access my network. I'm also a social media user, and that is a lot of what this talk is about. And more importantly, I'm a social media user with friends. Wouldn't it be sad if I was a social media user without friends? So we'll get back to why it's really important that I have actual friends on social media. But a final note is these glasses are fake. I don't actually wear glasses. What's the goal of this talk? The main goal of this talk is, I guess I have three total. The first one would be touch on how social media makes money. And then the next one is going to be, why is that bad? And then the next one after that is going to be, how can you stop it? I'm going to try to talk really, really fast, but at the same time, my voice is going, so please bear with me. Okay, so what is social media? That is kind of hard. Here's a fancy definition if you want to read it, and the link to it later. At the end of these slides, I will have a link that you can just take a photo of if you want to download all the slides. So it's basically where we do things like blogging. It's where we do things like liking each other's statuses and talking about our day and posting photos. For simplicity's sake, we could talk about so many different kinds of social media, but we're just going to talk about Facebook. We'll talk about a couple other companies, like, for instance, Google, not Google+, but I also want to talk about these. These are honorable mentions of Twitter and LinkedIn, because they will be engaging in all of the activities that I discussed going on. So a brief note, this is going to be about how to protect yourself from companies like this and not the individual hacker. If you have bad blood with somebody, you should resolve that. But it's not just companies, it goes on to marketing firms and eventually nation states. So I will discuss that as we go. So this is a quick graphic for those of you who can't see. This is from Pew Research Center. About 73% of all Americans use YouTube now, and about 68% use Facebook. This data is as of March 2018, and the other contenders there are either owned by Google or Facebook, and then there's Twitter there. But for the most part, somebody owns one of these things that you use at some point, and even if you don't use them, you probably use them. So for instance, to log into things, I know plenty of people that talk about how Facebook is really just a single sign-on app for them at this point, and that's true of Google as well. But even if you didn't do that, you would still be vulnerable, because even when you leave Facebook or Google or something like that, that's linked to your IP address and every other social media site you've ever used, so they keep that data, and it gets sold to data brokers. So let's first look at this. So a data broker looks something like what's in that little circle. So you'll notice it's cm.g.doubleclick.net. Google owns that domain. They're a data broker that then gives that data anything that you viewed. In this case, I was looking at the front page of the New York Times. That then goes back to Google, or it goes back to Facebook, and then they add that to your profile. I'm a really big fan of Privacy Badger, and I'll go a little bit more into what that is if you're not familiar with it. But it is it's a browser extension by the EFF, and they kind of talk about what third-party trackers are. I've basically already explained it, but this is a more like eloquent quote. So the EFF has been talking about this for a while. I have highlighted there 2009, and the reason I have 2009 highlighted is because they've been trying to tell you that you've been tracked for a long time, but we weren't really listening. And I think part of the reason we weren't listening is because we thought, oh, well, they're tracking us and they're going to build a profile on us, but then maybe they'll sell me really cool pants or something. Like maybe I will find boots that look good on me. But social media is free as in beer. No such thing as a free lunch. So even though it is free to use Facebook, it is free to use Google+. It's ultimately there are products, and there's a couple different products. And the first thing is the product is you, but also we have to talk about products go a lot deeper than just shoes, events, places to go see. Facebook explains it quite well with beautiful graphics. You'll notice bicycles are a theme with Facebook, and I don't actually know why, but you'll see this on a lot of their graphics. These are all pulled directly from Facebook.com's like ads section. This is what you would see if you wanted to advertise on Facebook. They will tell you ads are the most important part of Facebook. So that's basically it, and the talk is over. Quit Facebook, but that's not possible because that would be really, really, really hard. So if you still want to network with many people, I'm somebody who's lived in many states and goes to all these conventions and stuff, so like staying on Facebook is kind of important. So what does that mean if you stay on Facebook? Well, they start building profiles on you. The profile will have things that you like looking at, things you like doing. For instance, this person is an iPhone user. They're also interested in bicycling movies, specifically. I'm pretty sure there was supposed to be a comma there and they forgot it. But the thing that I want to focus on a lot here is advertisers define who they want to reach based on factors like interest, age, location, and more. So it's the and more section that gets really interesting because we're like, okay, bicycling movies, that's interesting. I looked up what bicycling movies were, just in case, because it's like, what are those? Apparently there's a Kevin Bacon one, and maybe it's good. But that's important to Facebook. So let's talk about a few of the data brokers. So who does this go to? Once it's been handed over, it goes to people like Epsilon, it goes to CoreLogic, it goes to Experian, it goes to Axiom, it goes to Equifax, and then it goes to Cambridge Analytica. All of these are still a thing except for Cambridge Analytica. They have dissolved themselves, and everybody who worked there has now gone to work for another data broker somewhere else. But before there was Cambridge Analytica, there was Epsilon, and we'll get a little bit more into that later. To begin, though, we kind of have to talk a little bit more about Cambridge Analytica, because that's the one that's been on everybody's feed, and probably the only one that you know. The product is you. Okay, so here is an advertisement I got on Facebook. It is a assumably gay avocado modeling, and this is important because I'm gay and I like avocados and I'm a Google Chrome user. So it says, hey, quit using Google Chrome like a noob. Part of the reason that they use the word noob there is because I'm heavily involved in gaming and tech communities. So noob is something I would respond well to. So this is funny and it's silly, and this is like what we thought the worst was before, but it gets a lot more intense than that. Let's talk about what Cambridge Analytica did. Just in case you haven't heard this a million times already, I'm going to fill you in. So it all comes down to some guy named Alexander Kogan at Cambridge Analytica and Facebook. So there was an app called This Is Your Digital Life, and it had a personality quiz, and everybody loves personality quizzes. Everybody wants to know, like, what house you're in Hogwarts and stuff like that. This is where things like this come in handy. So it was created in 2014, and he paid about 270,000 people to take it. But when they took it, it took their data as well as all of their friends' data. And then it was sold, and depending on who you ask, it was about 30 to 87 million Facebook profiles that we know of right now. So that's pretty bad, because it maybe possibly helped Trump win the election. So why do we know that, and why do we think that? So when we think products, when I said think beyond like things you could do, things you could buy, places you could visit, I need you to start seeing ideologies as products. It's much more than just, I'm going to buy shoes. It's, am I a Democrat? Am I a Republican? Am I interested in socialism? Things like that. Another note, like pretty quickly, is that Facebook knew about this for a while, like a significant while. And this is how we know, because then this may seem familiar for some of you. This is the, you didn't do anything wrong, but maybe one of your friends did, and that spread like wildfire. So you'll notice they mentioned that they changed their data policies in 2014, and then they removed "This is your digital life" from Facebook in 2015. So it took them a little bit to do something about this, and then our election was 2016. So I started thinking, okay, I can't talk to every single person and tell them how to run their computer. But at this point, if I don't, it will affect me directly, because it's much more than being sold a thing, it's being sold an ideology. Who am I as a person? And what is it that I will become? The essence of you is the profile that they build on you. So what would I say to somebody if I wanted to say, hey, you need to revise the way you do things? Well, to start, I would have to give them a lot of data. So let's first talk about what Cambridge Analytica used to look like. So courtesy of the Wayback Machine, so the Wayback Machine only has data back to 2016. And beyond that, even though the company has existed since 2014, it has been wiped from the internet. I couldn't find it, and I didn't have more time to research anywhere but the Wayback Machine. So they talk about 5,000 data points per person. Oh no, the source is cut off at the bottom. Oh well, the link to the slides will be there later. So December 2016 is when I pulled these from. And I wanted to focus on a quote. Such profiles are said to include what car a person owns, their health concerns, and what media they consume. So every time you go to WebMD, for instance, there's a tracker that's then taking that data and selling it back to Facebook or Google or something like that. So it's far more than like who you are, it's also what health issues do you have, and who would pay for that data. So to drive it home a little bit more, I'm going to show you a couple more slides from their website. We understand people. And then here's where we get back to the quizzes. So on their website, they used to literally have a take our personality test link there so that you could instantly be plugged into their marketing campaign. They don't have it anymore. They, in fact, have nothing there. But they put you into the ocean model, the openness, the conscientious, the extroversion, the agreeables, and the neurotics. So in doing that, they decided kind of what you would respond to best. So if you're afraid of things easily, they try to scare you. If you're easily riled up and you get angry, they try to anger you. Brief note here, I wanted to talk about the organizations that they bragged about working with before. So they talked about working with people like NATO and Sandia and the US State Department and like the UK Ministry of Defense, and like, I can't verify this other than by the headlines that popped up later on saying that like we definitely use this in our elections and stuff like that. But it's a little bit concerning because now it's not just advertising companies that are trying to sell you things. Now it's nation states. So the profiles that I keep talking about, they are called behavioral micro-targeting. And they will do things like, as said, it targeted certain messages at specific personalities. For instance, using the language of fear to target neurotic personalities. Exactly as I said, and to briefly talk about this. So if you want to learn more about this specifically and how it works, it's been around for a while. It's been around since like 2013 is when it became extremely popular and a lot of companies started using it. But you can learn more at worldprivacyforum.org. This is linked via the EFF, so it's definitely a safe website, but if you wanted to, you could go through the EFF and then check through there. Let's say that you wanted to become president. What might that look like? It's pretty interesting, but he definitely used Cambridge Analytica's services. So did Ted Cruz, and it didn't work out for him. So it's a hit or miss thing, but when it works really well, and you get to control the free world. The drain the swamp that you've heard a million times, that comes from Cambridge Analytica. They did what's called canarying, and Facebook is very famous for this because they've got like 1 billion something users. So what they do is they take a very small subset of all of their users and they test a couple phrases and they see how people react to it. And if it's positive, then they keep doing it, and if it's negative, then they don't. And it gives them some time to work out any of the kinks and stuff like that. It's normally used for feature rollout, but in this case, it was used to see how angry you get when I say we need to drain the swamp. Real quick, let's talk about who was watching while I was looking at this article. So Facebook and Google were watching as I checked this out because it's relevant to their interests. They're really hard on the case of stopping this in the future, as you can see. They would definitely never let it happen again. Let's talk about Epsilon again. This was said by the CEO of Epsilon in a 60 Minutes interview back in, I'm going to say like 2014. Consumers are rushing to the internet to provide more information about themselves than we would have ever imagined. And then he goes on to say, I think that consumers ought to understand that the internet is an advertising medium. She's talking here as the marketing representative for Marriott, and she's talking about how it's really great that when somebody posts online that they can't do something or that they want to do something, within hours she can send them an advertisement for that. And what's really interesting is she talks about how it used to take her days to track down this information, but now with the help of companies like Epsilon and their behavioral micro-targeting, she can do it within hours, and it's getting even faster than that. So, what can we do now that we know bad things are happening? Well, you could quit social media, and like a lot of you have probably already quit Facebook, and that's awesome. But remember, that's tied to your IP address, which is also tied to the data trackers that were tracking you across everywhere else. So even if you quit social media, your profile still exists. They have your cookies. So let's be real. And let's talk about what previous internet success used to look like. Previous internet success was don't acquire toolbars, use an ad blocker, use Google over all other search engines, definitely don't give all your money to a Nigerian prince. And that was it. You were doing great. And you could brag to everybody about how you had optimal Google foo and you never had to see ads. What does now internet success look like? It's changed quite a bit. So you have to read the terms of service of every website. You're not going to do that. You should have been doing that before too, but you're not going to. You have to meticulously adjust over 9,000 privacy settings, and I will show you what that looks like in just a moment. We're not going to go into the privacy settings of every social media because that would be insane, but we'll just do like 50 of Facebook's. You can't use JavaScript ever again. And you have to use a lot of special browser extensions, and then you have to not give all of your money and data and all of your friends' data to faceless companies. How do you do that, though? Who are the faceless companies? To begin, let's talk about reading the terms of service. So most people aren't going to do that. I honestly didn't do very much of it until preparing this talk. But I recommend Terms of Service Didn't Read, tosdr.org. And here's what that looks like. So let's look at what Google has to say. So Google keeps your searches and other identifiable user information for an undefined period of time, meaning they may be deleted at some point, who knows, maybe they ran out of space, maybe they didn't. There's lots of reasons why they could or could not have your data. Here's Facebook's. And to drive home the point of Facebook using you, Facebook uses your data for many purposes, including data analysis, testing, service improvement, control of the effectiveness of personal ads, which do include your ideologies, and location features and services. So that's all bad. So let's talk about what if you wanted to adjust all those over 9,000 settings. Well, I'm not going to go through all of those exactly, but here's what it would look like. You'd go to the settings section, and then you'd go into privacy, and then you'd click general, and you'd have to probably remove your contact information, and probably you want to maybe download a giant copy of your Facebook data. So I did this, and it was about 3 gigs. I post about once a day. And so I've been a member since, I'm going to say 2010. So if you've been a member of Facebook longer and you post more than that, or you have a lot of friends that tag you in things all the time, that goes into your behavioral profile. So downloading that might be interesting because then you can decide what you remove and what you change your name to and stuff later. So one of the other places you're going to want to go to after that, by the way, this is where you download your information. You can download it either as HTML if you want to view it in a browser, or JSON if you want to code with it. So this is all the data. It's your posts, your photos, your videos, your comments, your likes and reactions to everything you've ever liked or reacted to across Facebook. All of your friends, everybody following you, everybody that you follow, every message you've ever sent in every group you've ever joined, and everything you've ever done in every group you've ever joined. So a little bit of data. So next is your security and login. In general, probably change your password, but also enable two-factor login. So one of the reasons that you want to do this is because those apps can keep logging in as you in the background. If you do this, hopefully, unless Facebook has a special deal with them, you'll at least get a text when they try to log in as you. So from there, go back. You probably also want to set everything to friends and not everyone. The only thing I have set to everyone is my friend requests, but everything else is either only me or friends, because anything public, data brokers don't even have to work with Facebook. They can just scrape it, and they don't need any contracts or anything. So you want to be a little bit more aware of that. So from there, we also have to talk about location. You should disable that. You should also disable facial recognition, which is a new thing that has been popping up and is a problem. So it's not just do they recognize your friend, it's at that point, then they know that that friend was with someone else, and they know that that friend was in that location. So even if you have location off, if you have facial recognition on, they can use your friend's data if anybody ever tags you in anything. So the next thing is probably don't put your financial data in Facebook. You'll also want to go into the apps and websites section. Here, when I first opened it, I had 60 active and several expired. Now it's the removed section that is quite populated. But even if you remove everyone, that data isn't guaranteed gone. You then have to contact every individual organization that had your data and ask them to purge it. And I guess include a note that says pinky swear, because it doesn't there's no contract that says they have to delete your data, because if you read their terms of service, they probably have the same thing as Google, but they don't have to delete your data. There's nothing requiring them to do this, and unless we make laws to require them to do this, it's going to be hard. So from there, you can go to your ad preferences, and you can adjust all of your ad settings, and it's really good because there's all of your interests, there's every advertiser you've interacted with, There's your information, and if advertisers can see it, for instance, your relationship status, your employer, your job title, the education you've had. And then there's categories about you. I didn't have any behaviors, and I think that's really interesting that they call them behaviors, but they've not found any on me personally. And then you have to say, please don't keep advertising to me and giving me special things. So then let's talk about Google. I can't go into all of Google. I do not have enough time. I am running out of time actively right now. So you want to go into ad settings though, and then you want to check this box, which means please don't use my Google activity to advertise to me. And maybe it works. It probably doesn't though, and that's why we pulled up the terms of service again. Because they don't have to do anything. As they say, Google keeps your searches and other identifiable information for an undefined period of time. So even if you uncheck that box, and they definitely pinky swore to not use the box, you'd still have all of the previous data they've collected on you. So Google can share that information with other parties. So it's not just Google that has that information, it's everyone. So one of the solutions is something called Do Not Track. So the Do Not Track request, when the FCC sucked slightly less, they came up with the Do Not Track request, and it's supposed to be a little cookie that you send, and you send it to the data broker and you say, please don't track me, and they maybe follow it, hopefully. But let's say they don't. This is how you disable JavaScript. And if you wanted to disable JavaScript, I don't know if anybody's tried that, but it breaks the whole internet if you try to use the modern day web. So proceed with caution. Alternatively, you can use extensions like NoScript and ScriptSafe, depending on whether you're on like Firefox or Chrome. And if you wanted to, you could also download Privacy Badger. So I'm all about Privacy Badger, and I will talk about it a little bit more. So they have a little thing on the Do Not Track signal. They do their best to always send the Do Not Track signal, and if they see that they're still tracking you, then they block them over time. And we'll talk a little bit about how to use Privacy Badger too. But by the way, if you go to stopdatamining.me, you can learn more about where the Do Not Track signal came from and how it's being enforced. So this is what Privacy Badger looks like. So green means a third-party domain is out there and they don't seem to be doing anything wrong. Red means that they have been disallowed, they're no longer allowed to follow you, and then yellow means they're doing something suspicious. I disagree with the color choices, but they also have the little like no smoking sign, and then they also have the cookie and the check mark. But if you follow all of that, pretty much all I do every single time is just set them all to red to block everything by default, and then enable things based on what I need. You can also get really crazy. You can do U-Matrix, which allows you to, every single link on the page, you could say yes or no. Boop, boop, boop. So let's say that you wanted to use social media on your phone, like most people do. So this is where you get extra like, oh no, I use my phone though. I don't even use a browser to look at Facebook. Well, you can tell Apple and Google to maybe don't track you and to stop. You'll notice for Apple it just says limit ad tracking. You can't even stop it entirely. You just do less. And then for Android, you can't really do anything. They don't have to honor anything. This is from a specific YouTube video that walks you through like each setting that I included in case you want to do that. But there's nothing making them do it. And if you have Android or you have Apple, both of them are advertising firms. At the end of the day, they profit from you. So here's how you enable the do not track thing for Chrome if you'd like. But if you don't want to use Chrome, you can also use things like Brave. So Brave was developed by Mozilla, and it allows you to do similar things to Privacy Badger in that it lets you stop who's who's advertising to you and who's tracking you everywhere. Another option is Firefox Focus. It won't stop people from tracking you, but it will remove all of your history afterwards, which your history is another thing that then gets sent to everyone. Google has what's called, I believe it's like an advertising timeline of everywhere that you've gone and who you've interacted with based on your browser history, every time you opened up Google Maps, things like that. So it's pretty bad, and ultimately, like, there's not a ton that you can do, but at least if you're educated, you can move forward. Maybe you don't use Facebook on your phone anymore. Maybe you only use it through a browser. Maybe you do switch to using Brave or Firefox Focus to start looking at your Facebook. But at the end of the day, we can't do much but slowly be aware and petition people like the EFF to help us. So I feel really bad that there's a little bit of depression to this talk and that there isn't a lot of solution. But I wanted to show you how deep the rabbit hole goes and ultimately leave you with social media isn't free. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Hi.
Recently, Facebook came up with a new feature that allows Facebook to be like a dating app. Do you think this new thing from Facebook is just a new thing to be more deep in our society, or just a new way to prevent users since the Facebook scandal to quit Facebook?
Okay. So Facebook is definitely just trying to gather more data on you, and like I can say that OkCupid is one of the other things that uses data mining and stuff to learn more about you and determine good matches for you, and that data then gets sold outside of OkCupid. So I can't imagine Facebook would not also do that. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
I was wondering if I could challenge you to go devil's advocate for a little bit. I mean,
Okay.
the advertisers certainly feel this way, but you know, we all work, we make money, and we want to spend it on fun things. And
Yeah.
I think some of this help us, you know, find things that we enjoy, like concerts, events we wouldn't have otherwise known about, or products that we didn't know. So it's,
No, and I'd say like I have found these boots were advertised to me on Facebook. I had no business buying platform Doc Martens, but I have them. So yeah, no, it does help expose you to a lot of new things. But at the same time, when you consider the ideology aspect, are you down to be exposed to fascism?
Can you detail that a little bit?
Detail that a little bit? How so?
So, you've said that it's wrong to be trapped. It's wrong for other people to make money off of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that social media isn't free.
Mm-hmm.
And while I do agree with the fact that we should be aware of the fact that money is being made off of us, and we should go into this with eyes wide open, there's still a part that's not quite reasonably well explained in the fact of why not.
So why not? I feel like because it's a psychology violation. Like normally when you want to run an experiment on a bunch of people to figure out how their psyche breaks, for instance, you have to go before an ethics board and verify, is this okay to do to other humans? They've sidestepped this entirely, and that's where it gets dangerous. It's that there's nothing stopping them from testing really dangerous phrases. Like, Drain the Swamp is one that everybody could kind of get behind because they're like, oh yeah, no matter whether you're left or right, screw who's in the White House right now, screw who's in Congress. But what about when the different phrases that they're testing are more violent, for instance? What if they're telling you to hurt someone in some way?
I'm going to make a dangerous analogy now.
Oh.
While we're not always making money off of it, aren't we doing the same thing as hackers?
What do you mean, are we doing the same thing as hackers, though?
I mean, we are running dangerous experiments, and what we're doing, most of the time, which we're doing...
No, we're all extremely ethical white hats.
While most of the most of the time we are, I've heard rumors that there are some excellent researchers, obviously friends of mine, I've heard really that do run experiments that are, they're playing with a lot of dangerous stuff.
Yeah. Well, no, they are, and we all try to find I and say that we would never participate in anything like that. Concept. Facebook is black hand. Yeah.
So, a quick comment. I think people are forgetting the issue about consenting for privacy, and also the fact that a lot of things, like, sure, we get cool marketing stuff for like outfits we like to buy and stuff, but like sometimes that comes in a way that people can still make money profitably, be advertising, but still have maintain consent. Like, what do you think of it?
I feel like I can't use the microphone anymore. But I'm gonna try to speak loudly, but my voice is gone. I feel like in an ideal world, the only thing that I can think of that would be okay would be an advertising platform that you consented to go onto. Like for instance, there's social media, and then there's an advertisement thing you can go into, and based on going into that, you then check things you're interested in, and it can help you from there. Then maybe it can work with places like Amazon, and it can work with like people like President Trump to advertise your ideologies or different political candidates you might be interested in and stuff like that. But I'd like it to be an opt-in thing that you join versus it being a default thing for using any system.
What's the ultimate like dystopian reality for you from this perspective?
Oh, that's fun. I read a lot of books. The ultimate dystopian reality is that, so part of the issue with Facebook is that you don't see things that you don't like, and you already you unfollow all of the friends that post about things you don't like and stuff like that. So I guess the worst possible thing would be for them to for Facebook to be influenced by, let's say, like Nazis or something like that, and then slowly just don't show you anything even remotely liberal or anything like that over time, and you never know because they just show you less and less of your friends over time. And I feel like that's very possible because Facebook is ultimately a publicly traded company. They can be bought out. So, yeah.
Background.
Yeah.
It's opt-in usually.
But
that's another way to pay for the internet.
yeah, that's cool, but also really scary that they'd be doing it in the background without my consent.
Hopefully they ask for
Never been asked though, so
Hashes.org does that, and they're opting.
cool.
Does this support the American populace? So you said that you have to swear with Google that they will delete the data.
Yeah.
But in Europe, if you ask them to delete our data, they by law have to delete every single piece of data that we have.
We're in Europe.
I'm from the UK, but the European Union has a common consensus, which is
Yeah.
that we
That's you.
yeah, in our major fifth, but it is supported across the whole of Europe and enacted by all businesses that operate in Europe and outside of Europe that deal with European citizens.
That sounds
So
amazing.
there was a big force in Europe to sort of push for this law so that everyone is controlled. So when you used to visit websites, usually a banner at the bottom used to come up saying, if you proceed on this website, you're setting into the terms and cookies,
Yeah.
plus cookies on you.
Yeah.
Now it pops up saying, do you want cookies? And you get to choose which cookies you want, which vendors they send the data to. Yeah, exactly. So it's a good thing.
I hope that keeps going on, especially because, like, I mean, the UK was definitely very much involved with Cambridge Analytica, and that helped a little bit with pricing. So I hope that that's enforced. It sounds good. Anyone else? Okay, I think we're done then. Oh, wait.
I was just gonna say, I mean, what other tools do you recommend to use besides Brave or I don't know, maybe
Images, yeah, I think we're done here. I